Welcome to Sony Pictures Animation, where we've just completed our first animated film, Open Season. When we started Sony Animation 4 years ago, the most important thing that we did is focus on story. Because story, story, story. You have to have heart and humor. You have to have characters you care about, characters you're going to want to take into your homes.
In my cartoon, in the bleachers, I do a lot of hunting cartoons. The jokes about animals and hunters. And I do a lot of bears, and actually going back in my cartoon like 15 years, I've always had this one deer who was like the screw-up of the forest. My stuff is kind of like the raw material. It's not as developed as the movie. That's where the animation department came in and really made it.
Woohoo! Animation is such an amazing process. To the outside world, we seem like crazy people because each little step is so meticulous, but I love seeing the evolution of these films, seeing a story take place, something you dream of from scratch, and seeing it develop and the characters develop, giving life to these characters and a form to them, and then seeing them animated and come to life in front of your eyes. And then these characters also take on a life of their own so that by the time people watch them, they just believe Boog and Elliot are real, but they're just completely constructed, completely fabricated, you know, from the dream of the character designer through the animation and the voice talent, all the way to the end. And there's something really exciting about taking a character that doesn't exist at all and putting them in a story and giving them life and seeing them become real.
Elliot comes in and he's like ADD character. He's like, look at this, oh wow, this is cool. Oh, look at this. And he's going every single way. And Boog is just a little bit slower to process things. And he's, hey, wait, that's my bed. He's like, hey, get out of there. So you had Boog is always sort of like 2 paces behind Elliot as he zips around. And I love the contrast of their tempos.
You know, this place is big enough for 2.
What?
I mean, obviously we have a bear and a deer as the main characters that walk around and talk and stuff. So it's not necessarily completely grounded in reality, but you still want to work in a little bit of what the actual animal is like.
I mean, in animation, you're trying to sort of enhance reality. Oh, yeah! In a sense, you want to just take it to the next level. I mean, what we like to do is basically come out and actually see the animals sort of in their environment that just allows us to sort of view them as they're moving around, just acting normally, you know. We have to look at a number of different animals. The bear is obviously one of them. We looked at a couple deer today. We looked at some rabbits. Basically, we're looking at these for reference because we're in the process of building those characters right now.
So the actual simplicity of the characters that were designed, you know, by Carter Goodrich, to have this simple get. You know, your first time you look at them, you get what their personality is. The more you learn about these animals and the more you learn of the truth of what they really are, the more opportunity you have to bring something to their character.
The look of the character grows in order to match the characteristics that we develop in our story. What the characters look like should serve who the characters are and what they have to do.
You remember what happened the last time you talked to me?
And it'll take about an 8-month process to move each sequence into the production pipeline, and then there are 250 artists that are responsible for delivering every single one of the shots of the movie.
ImageWorks is the production facility that is producing all imagery for a Sony Pictures Animation movie.
What we had at ImageWorks was we had kind of like the factory, if you will. We had the people who actually make the movies. What we didn't have is the front end. We didn't have the guys who came up with the ideas on a blank sheet of paper. We didn't have the story artists. We didn't have the character designer. We didn't have visual development. That came in, we brought that in animation, and then those people kind of work hand in hand with the factory, with the animators, with the riggers, with the modelers, with the lighters. And it's that partnership that we built with the launch of animation.
Partners!
Well, we have a great story department. That's one of the good things that worked out here at Sony is that Sandy and Penny and Yair did a really good job of pulling in a lot of different storyboard artists from different places.
I had a sequence where I was supposed to have Elliot go to where Boog was sleeping in his garage. He was trying to get his attention. And then I had this one drawing of him looking in the window, and then when I drew it, it looked like a rabbit to me. He's just like, oh, it looks like a rabbit. Ah, that'd be funny if instead of rocks, he was throwing rabbits.
Our head of story, Dave Feast, came up with the rabbits against the window sequence, and then he just kept taking it further and further.
Who's there?
It wasn't written down. It wasn't in a script page. It was just like a happy accident.
Elliot went into town and slept in a dumpster alone, and now this is the next morning. Boog and Beth have gone in to do their routine amphitheater show, and Shaw is trolling the streets looking for Elliot. So take it away, Chris.
Okay, so from inside the truck, Shaw's looking the other direction, and we see through the windshield Elliot walking into the intersection doing the Kramer shuffle, drinking a cup of coffee on 2 legs. Comes into frame there, cut to Shaw. He looks forward, all of a sudden he takes. The truck skids to a stop, just inches from Elliot there. Shaw's head hits the windshield, and we cut inside to Shaw. You? It walks like a man. Cut to Elliot, screams like a woman. Blasts off camera there. Shaw trounces on the gas. We cut wide as Elliot's running. Shaw's truck's peeling rubber on the asphalt there. Takes a sip of coffee, throws it back. Truck comes into the camera. We cut wide on the street. Elliot zigzags in and out of the parking meters. Shaw hops the curb, taking out the meters with him. I killed you once and I'll kill you again.
Not again.
One of the things we were really going for is a really graphic look on open season. I think that it wasn't necessarily a choice for 2D versus 3D as much as it was just a choice to get a bold graphic look that really captures the feeling of being in the woods for the first time, where there's really graphic light direction and the trees look gigantic and you feel so small. And we wanted to put our main character, Boog, in that position where he was in the woods for the first time, experiencing all that for the first time.
Joel Colton came to Penny and I and said, I want to show you this wonderful book. Ivan Earle was a very famous graphic artist. And she said, see these beautiful shadows, see how the images disappear and go into very long landscapes. Look at the detail in the shape languages he's using.
A lot of our larger shots, our large scale shots, we needed to populate as many as, say, 5,000, 10,000 trees.
Every single bush, every blade of grass, every tree, every single environmental element that'll go into this film was designed 2D on Photoshop first.
Well, they would most of the time provide us with conceptual artwork that they'd done 2-dimensionally and that we would match through LookDev 3-dimensionally.
So some of the mandates the directors gave us on this film is that they wanted very malleable characters. And one of the things that they had asked for is they wanted characters that could squash and stretch to just extremes. So basically taking arms and pulling them way out, or taking legs and taking heads and really kind of squishing their faces and doing all these things that normally we don't do here at ImageWorks. So we had to come up with all these tools and techniques to allow us to do that.
Stretch and squash is like the basics of this thing. The pliability of it, the caricature that it allows you, gives more of a sense of impact, gives more of a sense of when Elliot pushes on Boog and Boog sort of wobbles, it's that sort of thing that makes these characters so fun and takes it out of the realm of a live action movie.
It really helped us just in getting back to just basic animation principles and being able to achieve really any pose that we wanted. We weren't limited by the rigs anymore of just purely just moving joints around. We had the flexibility in the rigs that Mike and his team created to actually sculpt any graphic shape that we wanted with these characters.
Well, for myself, and I know quite a few of the animators, we use webcams or video cameras, and you just act it out. You just keep playing the line on your computer over and over, and then you act it out in yourself, kind of mouthing the words, and that gets you pretty far to begin with.
But I do tend to find myself making the faces and sort of doing the movements that I'm trying to animate, without being aware of it.
We created a tool called the Shaper tool, which you can actually sculpt your character in your key poses, sculpt every outline, every line, every shape of him to get a fantastic pose for every single key pose that you want to put him into.
We have 9 pretty much main characters. They're all furred, and they're furred differently. And there's ducks, and they need to be able to use their wings in a bunch of different ways. They need to be wet. They need to be dirty. One character has to get badly beaten up, in the middle of a sequence. Boog has to come home one night completely covered in Cheerios and Slurpee machine colors. And you know, at most studios that I've worked at, those were issues that would make technicians freeze up. But here at ImageWorks, they're used to being confronted with these kind of problems, and they have no problem taking them on.
We have something like 29 characters who are all haired, 11 hairy people, we've got 18 hairy animals. Obviously each character is, millions of hairs, so you're talking, billions and billions of hairs for this whole movie. Boog, he's at 1.6 million hairs. The porcupine, that's all hair. You've got the squirrels, they're obviously haired. We do the duck, which has, something like 5,000 feathers. Elliot probably has the most hair. He's got about 3.5 million hairs. And you wouldn't think it because he doesn't look that hairy, but what happens is the hair's so short that you need a lot of hair to fill in that area. So you'd be surprised. Beth only has about 150,000 hairs, which is actually pretty realistic. The average human, I think, has between 100 and 150,000 hairs. She's right there at 150. It's a big challenge. I'm glad we got the right people to work on it because otherwise without them it would be impossible.
I'm incredibly proud of the fluid dynamics when Boog pukes against the garage window. We did a lot of physics and modeling and simulating to get it just right. And when you hear the audience go, oh, you know you've been successful.
Splash Mountain is probably one of the more challenging sequences in the movie. We knew that we were going to have one sequence in the movie that had a lot of water, combined with fur, combined with the geometry, and sort of the scope and scale of the sequence was a real challenge for us.
In hand-drawn animation, we only have what the animator has drawn. In 3D animation, we're dealing with a whole world. So it was our chance to basically do the classic car chase and the classic water ride all in the same sequence.
Everything's moving. The water's moving, the characters are moving, the camera's moving, everything is moving.
The end shot in Splash Mountain where Shaw goes over the waterfall, that shot just blew me away. I was jumping up and down in my room because it's a shot you can't do in live action. Because if you're following the bad guy over the waterfall, you go past him and you catch up with our heroes. And then the bad guy catches up. It's like totally impossible to do physics-wise because the rate of fall doesn't quite work that way. And it falls forever and ever and ever. And the fur on Boog is fluttering in the wind, and it is just like the most amazing shot that when shots like that come in, everybody goes, yes, we're making a good movie here.
So we have 1,223 shots, 7,200 feet, 200 people. There's a pipeline and there's a process. And the baton goes from department to department to department. The shot goes from department to department. You see all the different hands and departments that touch this. You can see all of the different phases and what they look like and what the impasto is. So it goes from a storyboard, it gets translated into 3 dimensions. The layout department shoots it. They send it down to animation, which gives spirit to the characters. It goes back to layout. They put all the final high-resolution models in there, send it to cloth, hair, and effects, which gives everything that sits on top of the animation life, and then it goes to lighting, where they light the final imagery, and we go to release.
How y'all doing?
Hey, Boog! Post-production process for us, because we've been editing the film all the way along, is adding the sound effects and the music.
It was liberating in a lot of ways to write for a storyline rather than just come up with a great song.
This is where I belong. My home. I belong.
You are home.
If it's a message that kids can get out of this, I think it's the one thing is just the value of friendship, how important friends are. It's through this friendship that Boog makes an enormous leap into maturity, and it's through this friendship that Elliot finds acceptance. And those are pretty profound gifts that friends can give each other.
And in animation, it's about collaboration. If you can collaborate, if you can listen to what people have to say, you can find magic. And animation is about magic.
The lines between traditional artists with a pen and CG artists on the computer are completely blurred now. I think that there's no such thing as a technical person on this show. They're all artists, and that's what you will see when you see Open Season. I really think that. So, no rabbits were harmed in the making of this film.